All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for attending the event today. It's certainly weird to be back online doing press conferences, but we're going to make sure that we're all safe with the new COVID numbers going up again. As most of you know, when I pulled together the team of people to form the Mayor's Racial Justice and Equity Alliance, I wanted a strong independent group that would not only go out into the community for feedback and recommendations, but also take a look at city government operations regarding equity issues. The Alliance and the various subcommittees produced a massive report that included many recommendations. One of the first actions we took was to hire a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer in the city to work internally and help implement these plans. You're going to hear from Guadalupe Ayala, our DEI officer, next about an important project that she's been spearheading and we're officially launching today. The recommendations from the Mayor's Racial Justice and Equity Alliance included external actions and items to be implemented throughout the city, but also included several internal items dealing with how Lansing can be more equitable and inclusive as a city. We've certainly made significant progress and have had many accomplishments already. I'm going to list a few of them. First, we identified the dollars to put towards DEI and appropriated them through City Council. We created internal and external structures for implementation of the MRJEI recommendations. We drafted an ordinance that is currently being reviewed by City Council to establish a permanent DEI board for the city. The Michigan Public Health Initiative has begun the tone at the top training and discussions, which were mentioned in the recommendations. They've begun that with our cabinet and myself to help city leaders and department directors understand the importance of diversity and equity across the board in our city departments. We've begun discussions for a citizens review board as per the recommendations. The DEI executive team is holding discussions with local pastors regarding collaboration as the MRJEA recommendations are implemented. We've also held trainings for myself, for members of my cabinet. The trainings have included sessions on the history of institutional and structural racism in America, shared language for racial equity, examining existing racial disparities in cities and its implications, concepts and tools for organizing and operationalizing racial equity, and learning how to use a racial equity tool when conducting daily operations, budgeting, communication, community engagement, and decision-making. The MRJEA have also had ongoing discussions with national groups like the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, or GARE, and the National League of Cities Race, Equity, and Leadership, or REAL program, to prepare for the work ahead and take advice and learn from other cities across the country who are also doing this work. Lansing isn't alone in the fight for equity, and there's so much we can learn from other cities and what's worked and what hasn't to ensure we do this correctly for our residents. So I appreciate the hard work the MRJEA is doing. I appreciate these partnerships, and certainly it's been busy and we've got more work to do. So that brings us to why we're here today. And I'm going to turn it over to Guadalupe Ayala to introduce you to the city's latest equity tool.
Thank you, Mayor Schor, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. Today is a very exciting day for the team that has come together to bring to our city two very important tools that provide transparency and will help our community advance racial equity. I would first like to take the time to thank Sam Kwan and Andy Skelton from the city's Information Technology Department. Sam and Andy have been very vital in bringing to life the tools that we have here, we're here to learn about. Their dedication to the research, collection, and process of putting the data together has been phenomenal. So thank you both. They are here today and available for questions at the end. And of course, I also would like to say thank you to everyone that assisted in all the different areas. So after my overview, I will be followed by Andrea Collier and Brett Kaczynski, who will talk about the benefits of using the tools, and the mayor will introduce them following myself. So we'll jump in and take a look at the tools. First, we want to start by seeing where we can find them. So I'll share my screen. Just a second. Okay. So here we have, let me share. There we go. So here we have the our website for the city of Lansing. And right here under government, when you go to government, you'll find the diversity and dashboard link. Another way that you can quickly find it is scrolling down to the bottom. And under quick links, you'll find a diversity and dashboard link as well. And the third way is to actually going to lansingmi.gov/equity. And that's what we'll use right now to go directly to that website. So you will first get a narrative at the top. And then when you scroll down, you will find both of the tools, the equity matrix and the workforce diversity dashboard. So let me scroll down. Another way that you can look at these tools is by scrolling down and actually clicking at the link. So instead of looking at it as a widget in our website, you'll look at it as a whole. So you can find the equity matrix there and the workforce diversity dashboard. So first, I want to talk about the workforce diversity dashboard, which you can go to and by clicking to the right side. And right here, you will see that the data here compares the diversity of the city's full and part-time workforce compared to the community. And that's all under the summary tab here at the bottom. Then in addition to the breakdown of the demographics, the dashboard gives a closer look at the number of employees and the average years of service, and that's under the details tab right here. So you'll see here we have 826 employees as full-time or part-time in our workforce. And it also shows the average service time. So you can scroll to the left or to the right to really, dig deep and see by year. And the data comes from two sources, from the US Census Bureau and the city's HR payroll system. Our data will be updated quarterly, and the census data will be updated every time an update is published. So the data can be viewed by the entire city workforce or by department. And that's here in the top right corner. You see where it says department, you can click on it and search by department. So for example, I'll go to my department, the Human Relations and Community Services, and you can see the number of employees that we have and the average service of the years. And when you click or actually put your mouse over each bar, you can see exactly, for example, Black females 5. And just to let you know that the data that we collect is really voluntary. So we welcome, or tell our employees that they can at any time of their employment go to the HR department and self-identify. We know and respect that some of them don't want to self-identify, so that's where the other tab comes in. So so the city of Lansing really has a commitment to recruiting and hiring and developing and promoting a diverse workforce that really mirrors the people who live in the city of Lansing. And this tool will be a great tool for the city leadership along with HR to really analyze any disparities and really modify their recruiting strategies if that's what they see fit. So that's the workforce diversity dashboard. We'll go over to the equity matrix on the left side. So, so this tool, again, it's called the equity matrix. We are really excited for everybody to start using it. It is an interactive tool that helps us to visualize local demographics and disparities, which will lead the users, such as city leaders, employees, organizations, community members, to really identify if there is needs in different areas. So our hope is that this information will lead all to really prioritize specific services that may be needed in specific way of delivering their programs, or we want this to be really to center disparities and center an outcome-driven approach to really closing those disparities in our community. So the first step is really understanding and being able to visualize it. And that's what this tool does, and visualize where the gaps are. So this tool really does that for us, and we can go ahead and dive deep into it and see what it entails. You can see that at the bottom of the tool, there are 6 tabs, and I will go over them. And in the middle, you'll see that there's a map that with your mouse, you can really click on it and go in really into basically by street. And you can go over like a block and click on it, and it gives you more information about, what we're looking at in the index. So for example, for race, in here, you'll see at the left side information about where the data comes from, how often it may be available, and what the index indicates. So for race, a lower index indicates a lower number of people of color living in that census block group. And then when we go over to the income tab, you'll see that a lower index score, it means that a lower index score indicates a lower number of people within the 0 to 24,999 yearly income bracket living in that census block group. So again, the same thing with the map in here. You can scroll in, go really by block, click on it, and more information comes up. The race over income combined tab, same thing. Well, in this one, a higher index score indicates a higher number of people of color making under $2,500,000 a year in that block grant. So again, gives you more information here that you can look on and scroll down. Then the language tab, the lower the index score, the lower number of limited English speaking households in that census block group as well. And then for education, a lower index score indicates a lower number of people with no high school diploma or equivalent living within that block group. And then lastly is our redlining index. And as we know, the Homeowners Loan Corporation created risk maps in the 1930s for nearly all cities with populations over 40,000. So these cities were what became redline. Specifically, the federal government developed an underwriting manual that required for appraisers to grade neighborhoods and cities. And in here, we have the colors and what they mean. A, of course, meant the best, and B, the blue meant still desirable, the yellow declining, and of course, the red meant hazardous. Also, another great tool within this redlining tab is the, you can add a layer, an additional layer. So let me zoom in a little bit. And this layer is for the, really for context. It's the low to moderate income data provided by the HUD's Community Development Block Grant. And this data is broken up into classes defined by this program to help decide where CDBG funds are allocated. So again, it's a really, good thing of comparing the redlining and CDBG data. So this really concludes my overview of the tools. So we really hope that everybody is able to utilize the data to really drive policy and budgetary decision making at a local level, but it really is making decisions in every programming that your organization might do or that you want to do in the future, maybe apply for a grant. So with the understanding that if we meet the needs of populations experiencing the worst disparities, we can begin to improve outcomes for all residents. So lastly, I want to state that as we know, the data changes, staff change, a lot of things can be modified. So we welcome any recommendations or concerns when it comes to these tools. And also we welcome any suggestions to make it better, or any data that you have available and you want to provide to us or partner with us, let us know. In our website, you can see that you can contact us anything relating to the matrix to equity@lansingmi.gov. And we look forward to hearing from you all. And even if it's a success story about using this tool, we really welcome it. So thank you all again. And I will pass it back to Mayor.
Thanks, Guadalupe. Great job. Great explanation. Appreciate all your hard work on this. I know you've been working really hard. And we're always very impressed. I want to introduce next Andrea King Collier. She is a multimedia journalist, essayist, and author. In addition to having authored her own books, she provides advice to organizations nationwide. She's written articles that have been published in national publications, including Ebony, Essence, AARP, Town and Country, and the Oprah Magazine Book of Happiness, just to name a few. Her work appears across print, online, and broadcast media. She is a Lansing resident, so I'm proud to have her as a Lansing resident, such a wonderful expert here in our city. She's one of our community partners. She provides advice relative to the equity data matrix. She's also drafted the web content associated with this tool to ensure user friendliness and relevance to our community. So Andrea, welcome.
Thank you for having me, and I'm really glad to have been a part of this team. I do, as the mayor said, I do national work, but I do live here in Lansing. And so having a tool like this, especially if you take a look at the last 2 years, and I can tell you that on the projects that I work on, including the reporting work, data is king, but data hides. Data is not easy to find when you're working on a story. So I love this tool because even as it builds out, and as Guadalupe said, we are not done. It's, data is fluid. They will be continue to add things, but it gives you the opportunity to do one-stop shop, or at least cut it down to one stop instead of 99 stops. And what does it mean to the community is that the city is putting into place a place where you can look and you can hold them accountable. There's accountability in this. If the numbers go up, it means one thing. If the numbers go down, it means another thing. If the numbers stay the same, it means something else. It's a measuring stick for the covenant and the partnerships between the city and the community. And it's wonderful to see numbers go up and down. And I don't know if any of you have been covering COVID. Data numbers on that particular thing, which doesn't have anything to do with the city numbers, but just to say that those numbers are hard to find. They are not clear. When you think you've got the right answer, you probably don't. But here's a place that's giving you good, clean data. And as in all of the work that I do, I appreciate that. The other thing is, if you are a community partner, or if you are let's say you work for a nonprofit, another place where data is key is in fundraising, development, and in grant writing. You are not writing a good grant if you don't have good numbers. And so here's an opportunity for you to get good numbers, up-to-date numbers from folks who are paying attention to the fact that they have made a commitment to share numbers with you. I think it's a great tool. I look forward to seeing what it's going to be like 6 months out, a year out, and how that evolves. So it's a work in progress in terms of what they're able to add, and it's exciting. So I'm glad, and I will be using it.
Thank you, Ms. Collier. I greatly appreciate it. We certainly wanted to show how this can be used externally with the community. Additionally, we wanted to show how this can be used and will be used internally here within the city. And a good example is our Parks Department. So we have with us our Parks Director, Brett Kaczynski, who's going to talk a little bit about how our Parks Department's using the data.
Thanks, Mayor. So our mission here at Lansing Parks and Recreation is to provide leisure time activities, which is when you're not at work or when you're not at school, and also special facilities that would not otherwise be available to Lansing residents. In an effort to determine our reach in the city, we had our Information Technology Department map the addresses of our 2019 recreation participants. So why 2019? This was obviously our pre-pandemic numbers when we were fully open and had all of our programs running. We were pleased to see that we were serving people from all areas of Lansing. This map data enables us to look at specific neighborhoods and neighborhoods of focus to determine any low participation areas. So we will be able to address any gaps with increased marketing and programming efforts. We know that youth participation in recreation programs is associated with positive changes in developmental outcomes. We invest in youth, which in turn invests in our community. We want every child and every adult in Lansing to have a safe, fun, and positive place to play, learn, and grow. And we offer scholarships to Lansing youth to aid in participation. And we look forward to serving as many children as possible. We're also very proud to have many of the staff who grew up in our programs working for us now. And we're always looking for more positive role models to hire to help us further our mission here at Lansing Parks and Recreation. Mayor?
Thanks, Brett. Appreciate that. That's wanted to share that information. And for the media, please ignore that Brett had an Ohio State picture right behind him. We don't approve that here in the city of Lansing. So that's what we've got. This is the brand new tool and matrix that we're rolling out as part of the next step in our diversity, equity, and inclusion work as part of our Mayor's Racial Justice and Equity Alliance. So I will invite the media to ask questions of any of the folks who presented on any of the pieces. And if not, we can certainly provide any of the folks available one-on-one. Just talk to Scott Bean in my office. I don't see anything in the chat. I don't see any hands going up.
We have a hand raised, Mayor.
Good. I see one. There's a Kevin Lavery from WKAR is asking about redlining data. I don't know if anyone wants to take that. I will lead off with Kevin. We've used some of that data in the past to create our neighborhoods of focus. We created our neighborhood of focus, the Willow Walnut Comstock Park area. Utilize some of that previous redlining data when we matched that up with numbers, poverty rates, and other resources that were available. We found that a previously redlined area did not have the equity of available resources to help those folks. This is exactly why we set that as a neighborhood of focus. We started mapping that out. It became challenging when COVID happened, but Delisa Fontaine and our neighborhoods department is working with several folks there, whether churches or neighborhood leaders and others, to localize many of the resources. That area has a capital area housing project. It has Mid-Michigan Charter Academy. It has Advent House. It has several areas that serve citywide and statewide. And we're working with them to serve that specific area for better outcomes, to make sure that folks are getting the resources they need. So we have specifically done that, utilizing some of this data. Again, when you ask about redlining, specifically with redlining, and we'll continue to do that in other areas that have need. You know, before I became mayor, the Baker neighborhood was designated as a neighborhood of focus. Southwest Lansing area was designated as a neighborhood of focus. You heard Brett Kaczynski talk about when we look at programs, you know, neighborhoods of focus continue to be areas where we give more points and higher consideration. And we'll continue to look at the city to see if there are other neighborhoods that we have to make focus neighborhoods while using this data. So it really dictates staff time and our resources and how we can push resources into those specific areas. Anybody else want to address that? If not, I believe Joy Gleason has the hand up.
Joy, you
Hello.
should be able to talk. Go ahead.
Hello. I had a question about updating the data on the data matrix. So it was mentioned that, yes, data changes over time. Is there a planned schedule for when the data is going to be updated?
We'll let one of the experts take that one on.
Yeah. Did you want to take it, Guadalupe, or you
Go
want me to
ahead,
answer?
Sam. Go ahead.
So the data is gonna, at least the employee data is going to be updated quarterly. So it's going to be updated 4 times a year. With the census data, we're always going to go look at the census page to make sure everything matches up at that time. So that's basically the update schedule that we have right now.
All right, thanks, Sam. Looks like Elena asked if the diversity dashboard takes into account the demographics of people in leadership roles. I'm not sure how that's broken out. I know my office is listed. I know that different departments are listed. I'm not sure if it's individually listed.
So right now it's listed by departments. We can do some more filtering by the different bargaining groups. So within our HR system, each employee is listed by bargaining groups. So like the mayor would be within the executive bargaining group. We could basically add additional filters to break those out in the future if that is what we see that is something that the public wants to view.
Thank you, Sam. Kyle asked for me, does anything surprise me? Takeaways. You know, it was interesting for me to look at this department by department. Certainly, we've had a lot of employees here for a long time. Looking at the longevity of employees, I think we've done a good job pushing out job postings and things in areas that are diverse in nature and in advertising. And it looks like we're starting to make a dent in that to make sure that we have a diverse workforce. But again, when you're looking at department by department, you know, there are some that seem to have a greater diversity and some that don't. And we can look at, well, what can we do about that? How can we adjust that? And then looking at it citywide, no, it didn't really surprise me. I mean, we know that that there are different areas of the city that have different diversity makeups. Lansing is a tremendously diverse city, and I'm tremendously proud of that. But there are different areas around the city that have different racial makeups, and it's historic. It's, you know, there are many reasons for that. So I'd say there were some surprises. You know, you always want the numbers to reflect a diverse workforce in a diverse city, and we'll certainly take a lot of this into account as we do a lot of our work. As I mentioned before, we've done trainings on equity. We've done trainings on how to put things in context through an equity lens, and I think all of this data will help us to focus our efforts. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anything further. So any other media with questions, please feel free to hit up Scott. And I'd offer to send you information, but it's all up on the website. So you can take a look at it and roll through it and look at it. And if there are any questions that come up, again, please feel free to get them to Scott, and we can get answers from Guadalupe or any of our MRJEA leadership team. Thank you everyone for joining us today and on this weird press conference online once again. Hopefully the next time we'll be in person, but I hope everybody stays safe and has a great rest of the week.